Welcome, Fantasyland, back to the GOAT District. My name is JD at GOAT District on the Twitter machine. Grab yourself some popcorn, maybe a drink, a beer, a cold one. I don't know about cigars. I'm not really into cigars, but grab a pen and paper, man, because we're about to roll, guys. And you're here to win. You want to win this offseason? Stay tuned, man. Here we go.
GOAT District, you know the Pope listens. Dynasty, our religion, for the blokes missing. On all of these trades, on all of these plays, on all of these grades. By the end of the day, y'all getting played. So, what you gonna do next? Try to fill up that flex? Send the homie a text? That trash offer's the best? You try to make it complex, then they text you back. Now all of a sudden they don't make any sense. Broaden your horizons, boy. Dynasty's not for the Simons, boy. These trades not for consignment, boy. Respect your opponent, y'all some piranhas, boy. This my advice, from me to you. Open up your cute little podcast queue. Search up GOAT District, my dude. Pop it in your ear, man, y'all know what to do. It's the... And I always be traded. And I always be traded. And I always be trading. Y'all try to betray them, but first you gotta bait them. Fish.
What is up, Fantasyland? As usual, we are back, and I bring in two of the best in the game. To my left, Dan, give a little side shot. Show that man bun. Come on. Let me show that. This is how he controls the flow, baby, with the man bun. I love it. Dan, how are you, brother?
Doing well, man. Doing well. It's good to get a chance to sit down and talk a little bit of football. I'm excited about tonight's show. Excited about tonight's guest. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, these are fun ones, man. Like it's that time of year where you can sneak some over your league mates. You know, they see that inbox bell go off and they see a trade you just pulled off and they're just like shaking their heads, going, "Oh, I could have got it for better." Right?
Everybody's got the rookie fever right now, so if you can keep your focus on some of those veterans.
And below me, nonetheless, the OG Theo, as usual, brother. Welcome back. How are you, man?
I'm good. I'm excited for tonight. We have Memorial Day right around the corner. It's kind of like a countdown for redraft seasons. We got our startups going on. Rookie draft is in the past, and it's a great time for football.
It is football, fantasy football. We got a big show tonight. Before we get to our guests, one of our favorites here in the district. If you haven't done your rookie draft, you still have some left. Maybe you've done your rookie draft. You want to know how you did. Maybe get some inputs on some rookie players you're looking at. Check out last week's show. We did 120 minutes of rookie draft goodness, full recap roundtable with, bunch of goats talking shop. Check it out, guys. Today is all about players we want to buy, and we bring him back to the district. Addison Hayes, welcome back, brother.
What's up, guys? What's up? Thank you for asking me to come on here, dude. Every single time that I come on the GOAT District podcast is so much fun. I have such a blast doing this with you guys. You guys are a phenomenal group of people to podcast with. The leagues are fantastic. I love everything that y'all got going on. So I'm so excited to be back on here again with you.
Appreciate that, Addy. You are definitely one of my boys, one of my favorites out there in Twitter land. Guys, if you're not following him, he's at AmazeHayes_. And check out the DLF channel, man. You're dropping some sweet videos. You guys have some good content dropping over there. Maybe give a quick roundup on what the latest is for someone who maybe hasn't tuned in yet.
Oh, man, yeah. So the DLF YouTube channel, we drop basically one video every single day, Monday through Friday, sometimes over the weekend as well. We have gotten to the point now where we're getting more people contributing to it other than just like me. So we're getting like 2, even 3 videos between like 2 posted videos and a live stream with Cal going on there. And then Tyler Justin Carp going on there. We got the DLF podcast. I'm dropping rookie mocks, going to start doing some startup mocks as well too. So it's just a whole bunch of awesome YouTube stuff going on, content every single day. Scott Connor, Shane Manila, they got a show on there too. That one is awesome, and a lot of people love that too, hearing those two bright Dynasty minds as well. So a lot of awesome content.
Yeah, man, friend of the show, Shane. You guys, they're putting out some good content out there as well. So check out the DLF channel. Check out Addison on even on Twitter, man. You drop some really good tweets, some good information. So make sure you follow him out there. He's fluffing it off, but it's true. It's true. So guys, before we get into the goodness, if you're watching right now, smash that like button. That's an easy way for you to help out the show. Subscribe, share it if you can, if you're generous. Maybe not to your competitive league mates, but maybe the guys at the bottom of your league that need a bit of help. You can maybe extend an olive branch there and help them out in goodwill. Maybe they'll hook you up with a nice trade, weigh it on your side a bit next time. But no, we appreciate you guys tuning in. We're going to get into it right now, guys. We're talking 10 running backs and receivers that you can go out and target right now. Not 10 of each, just 10 total, basically players that we're buying right now. Addison, I'll go to you first, man. Who's the first on your list right now that out of the two guys that you have?
So I guess we can hit it off with my running back first, because this one has a little bit of timely news that's coming in as well. Before we started recording here a couple hours ago, we got the news that Jeff Wilson is going to be out for 4 to 6 months, which means that he's going to miss at least the start.
I didn't get that news. Dude, you're crushing my heart right here. Dan, how many Wilson shares do we have?
We don't want to talk about it. Yeah. We don't want to talk about it. It's too many.
It was cheap. Sorry.
Too soon.
Nah.
Yep.
Yeah. I loved him too. I mean, he was fantastic. He was a guy that was super cheap in Dynasty to just stash, because the mantra is whoever Shanahan has in that backfield is going to score fantasy points. So 4 to 6 months from today basically puts him in anywhere from like October to, does he even really get on the field in the regular season, especially if they're trying to make potentially a playoff push. Depends on how that season goes, but still a very strong team for playoff contention. But my running back that I will want to buy, that I have liked to buy before the news today, but especially now after this, is not Trey Sermon. I hype up Elijah Mitchell a lot as well too, but I want to talk about Raheem Mostert, because I believe he's actually truly the starter for that Niners backfield, and definitely was the starter last year. He battled injuries as he normally does, but I think that's what makes him cheap. Also, with the draft picks of Trey Sermon and Elijah Mitchell, make him cheap. But in 8 games last year, he started all 8 games that he played, and in those 8 games was on pace for 1,300 total yards on 240 touches. The touchdown efficiency wasn't really there. He was the RB26 in points per game last year, because that touchdown efficiency wasn't necessarily there. Only 2 total touchdowns on 104 attempts. So, that 2% touchdown percentage isn't really going to get it done. But if that team is going to be better, and I expect Trey Lance to, really improve that offense more so than Jimmy Garoppolo, and sooner rather than later, I think Raheem Mostert could be the biggest beneficiary from that offense getting a huge boost from Trey Lance, especially from that backfield. So I really like buying, Raheem Mostert low, especially like I said, because he was already cheap, and then everybody really, really loves Trey Sermon and think that he's going to be like the next greatest starting running back. And I don't even think Trey Sermon's the starter. I think it's Raheem Mostert.
Guys, what do you think? The San Fran running back. I know that's an attractive backfield, and the uncertainty about it is what kind of makes it interesting. So what are your thoughts now that one of the players is out of the game for at least a short while?
Yeah, I'm totally on board with that. I mean, I think, asking a rookie to come in and just, take over that backfield from day one is a little bit of a stretch. Mostert is very cheap in Dynasty, as Addie mentioned. You've got the age thing, you've got the Sermon thing. There's just a whole lot of reasons why Mostert's not really that expensive. So I'm all about buying him. I do have a few shares of him. I had a whole ton of Wilson. Not going to lie about that. So that that one's going to sting a little bit. But there were several teams where I had a Mostert Wilson combo platter, so feeling pretty decent about that one.
Theo, what are your thoughts?
So I'm Team Sermon long term during the season, but I like Addison's call. Mostert should give you the starting role for what should be a high scoring offense to at least start the year. So it might be like a slow drip for Sermon to take over. But I look at Mostert as a guy that, for Dynasty and for redraft is a value right now. And I also will add that I think with Sermon being so red hot and Mostert, his ADP should rise slightly with the Wilson news. I think you can also take a couple of shots on Elijah Mitchell for cheap and Wayne Gallman for cheap and just see how that plays out. Whoever gets that third running back role, maybe we'll have an opportunity to catch a number of passes or at least be a thing. We saw McKinnon have some weeks last year, and I think you can find some value out of that backfield. But there's certainly some question marks to see who gets the volume right away.
Yeah, I think at the price, he's definitely worth it. Again, like we said, with the offense he's in. The problem with Mostert, like guys in this kind of group or tier, if you want to say, is the durability, right? So you look at him last year, his first 2 weeks, he was awesome. 25 fantasy points week 1, 18.7 week 2. And then 2 weeks he's not playing. He's back week 5, week 6. Then he's not back till week 12. So for me, he's, again, when you're looking at your roster construction and if you're maybe heavy on rookies or you don't necessarily have guys that are guaranteed a starting job in the beginning of the season, guys like this, Chris Carson, those kind of older guys that have trouble staying on the field, you like to pair those guys up with players that are going to fill in when they're either injured or later in the season. So whether that's Trey Sermon or another young rookie like a Michael Carter, like, someone that you think will get a role later in the season, or someone that's in a role type of situation in an offense where it's like a back by committee where, you might hit the right weeks where they're starting or they have a significant role enough to plug in. Look, I love the call, especially with Wilson out of there. And who knows, maybe Mostert's healthy, comes back, has a great season, undrafted, doesn't have that, draft capital that some guys like, but that's what gives him the price tag, right? And that's what puts him at a really nice price. It's one of those things that if that news just came out, I'd be trying to maybe put out offers, feelers quickly before everybody, has him on their buy list. And that's why you tune into the show. But Addy, that's a great call, man. Like I said, I was MIA today, so I had no idea that was some news. So good to know that too.
Yeah. Glad I could help you out.
Dan and I have some trading to make.
Yeah. Well, at least some of our cuts will be a little bit easier on some FFPC rosters. So,
and that's what's nice about holding those cheap, deep guys on FFPC, because they're cheap, they're not costing you much. You're going to find out before the season starts, usually, if they're going to be significant or not, or have a role or have a chance.
Right.
So,
and when you've got small rosters, you definitely don't want to be holding somebody who's going to be injured until, October, November, maybe even December, just on the off chance that they come back. So, he's one of those players that, to me, in the FFPC, he's basically instantly droppable. And you can, if it sounds like he might come back, then you can always pick him back up again. But for now, easy drop.
Shout out to Andrew, International Wine Day. I'm not a big wine guy, but I've got my IPA, man. So cheers. There you go for all you guys with your wine. So Theo, I'll go to you next. We're running back wise. Who's some? Maybe we'll just start with the running backs first. I probably should have maybe outlined that first. But who's a running back you're buying right now?
So I'll go someone a lot bigger name and a lot more expensive. And for me, it's more of a price check. I'm price checking Deandre Swift in leagues that I don't have him. We had Anthony Lynn refer to him as the B back, and he referred to Jamal Williams as his A back. He praised Jamal Williams. He also, said some nice things about Swift, but he very much named him the B back. This is after when Dan Campbell was hired. We heard Dan Campbell say that they're going to line him up all over the field and they're going to get him the ball. And there was some Kamara comparisons. So I think this is just one of a guy loses a little bit of shine for no reason. I mean, it was one little interview with Anthony Lynn. We're talking about a guy he's still going in the third round right now in redraft. He's extremely high in dynasty drafts, but this is a guy where, a month ago his price would have been maybe a little bit more expensive. He's got second round draft capital. Pre-draft, before the landing spots, a lot of people had him ahead of Jonathan Taylor, if not right there with Taylor. I mean, this is an extremely talented player. He had 10 touchdowns as a rookie, despite only playing 13 games. And, there was a dumpster fire last year with Matt Patricia. I think he's the most talented guy on the Lions. I think it's Hawkinson and Swift. I think he's going to have a huge year. I think he can catch 90 passes. And this might be a chance to get him at a slight discount to where he should be.
I see you nodding your head there, Addison.
I'm all about it, man. I mean, I put out a tweet, I think it was yesterday or maybe the day before, that kind of circled around the whole A back Jamal Williams, B back Deandre Swift stuff, saying like, I feel like people forget that Deandre Swift was the RB16 last year on like 150 touches. And that was a lot of that due to the fact that he did score those 10 touchdowns. So there was, some overproduction in the touchdown department. But like Deandre Swift was still very, very good. He was getting the PPR, the reception volume that we want out of our running backs. And down the line, he was getting the actual workload after losing the initial workload to like Adrian Peterson and Kerryon Johnson, who both combined for, almost 250 touches. So unless Jamal Williams is coming in here and getting 250 touches, Deandre Swift is still a 200 plus touch guy. And if that, split is going to be broken down into 150 carries and 50, 60 receptions, I'm totally fine with that out of Deandre Swift. And that's basically, what made Austin Eckler so valuable 2 years ago. Anthony Lynn has been a, running back machine in terms of fantasy points. He had Melvin Gordon being a two-time top 8 fantasy running back in San Diego and then LA. And then Austin Eckler was top 5 2 years ago. Last year was rough just because of injuries and whatnot with Eckler, but he still averaged 14, 15 points per game last year in the games that he did play on a high reception volume, workload. A lot of people also want to make the whole arguments that this team is going to suck. They're not going to have scoring opportunities, blah, 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 blah. And I don't really care about any of that. And especially because how good was this team last year? Like you said, Theo, like this team sucked last year. They didn't have Matthew Stafford for half the year. Galladay didn't play like 3/4 of the year. That offense was literally Marvin Jones, TJ Hawkinson, and Deandre Swift. And then whoever it was. Jared Goff is a formidable quarterback. He's pretty solid. He's not terrible. Everyone wants to make him out to be this, poor, like, Josh McCown level of a quarterback. And he's fine. He's just fine. And he's going to be able to support fantasy players on that team within TJ Hawkinson and Deandre Swift, no matter who the wide receivers are. And the wide receivers not being great, it's probably just better for Deandre Swift getting more receptions anyway in that Alvin Kamara, Austin Eckler type of a workload. So, I mean, I'm all in on buying and price checking, Deandre Swift as well, because I think that you're buying a solid mid RB2 floor with RB1 upside, depending on how touchdowns and receptions actually go.
Yeah, our RB16 last year, fantasy points per game for a rookie. Like you said, the offense he was in. Dan, I know he hurt you a bit with the Jamal Williams comment, but anything to add on Swift out there in Detroit?
No, I mean, Jamal Williams is he's gonna become a coach's favorite. He's going to, get a healthy share of touches. But when I say a healthy share, I mean a healthy share for somebody who's spelling a back of Swift's abilities. Let's not confuse Jamal Williams with DeAndre Swift talent-wise, and I don't think the Detroit coaches are going to confuse that either. The places where Williams is going to pitch in are going to be just fine for Swift. I mean, you don't for the most part, you don't want your running back getting 100% of the touches, targets, all that kind of stuff, because the odds are going to break down sometime during the season are extremely high. You want them to get some rest in key spots. You want somebody taking those low value touches to save the high value touches, for the stud running back. So hopefully that's what happens there. For me with Swift, I'm not like super go get him. But on the other hand, I think he's fairly valued where he's at. He's at DLF has him at in their ADP anyway. They have him at RB6, which I think is fair. He's right after Kamara, right before Cam Akers. Personally, I'd take Akers over Swift, but tomato. So I think he's in a good spot there. And we're going to get to Wheeler's question too. So
yeah, I was going to say, Theo, I know you're going to do some OTC later, but since we're on the topic and our boy Wheeler, I know Wheeler goes to bed early. He's a teacher and stuff. So, he might miss a segment later on. So quickly around Swift or Gibson, Dan, go first and we'll go around and at Addy.
Give me Gibson. He's on a better offense. He's got basically everything going for him that Swift does. I'll take Gibson.
Theo?
I'll say for 2021, I'm going Gibson, but for career, I'm going to go Swift.
Addy?
I don't really have anything to add. Flip a coin.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same. Like preference, I love Gibby. He's like I've got my my Viridian Global Addy pick T-shirt on order with Will, but it's you flip a coin, man. They're super close. There's a bunch of these guys in the running back rankings that are just you flip a coin. And we named Gibson, we named Akers, Swift, like those three guys for me. I probably have more Akers and Gibson than I do Swift, just because I feel like Swift is he's been like people have been holding on strong for a while, whereas Akers people let go a bit last year before he popped, and then Gibson similarly. So, but they're all super close. Did we have another running back, or is it me now? Or did you go
either one?
No, Dan, go ahead.
Okay, so I've got and we might as well go with mine because my running back is Antonio Gibson. So
nice.
That's a real easy segue right there. Very, very profesh, JD. Very profesh.
Nice profesh.
So Gibson. I mean, basically last year we were all wondering, can he handle the job of a running back, or is he going to be, more like a CJ Procise or something like that, where he's a JD McKissick even, where he's all, getting all targets and not that many carries, even though he's clearly got the size, speed, everything else. And that question was answered in spades because, I mean, Gibson was just absolutely, he was great as a rusher, and where they actually didn't trust him as a receiver. So if there's any questions in his profile, it's more on how much they're going to use him as a receiver. And I think the reason why they didn't use him is pass pro, right? He did not grade out very well in pass pro. And if you're not grading out well in pass pro, you're just not going to be on the field enough on those passing situations. Because a lot of times, your running back, you say, well, I don't care if my running back's on to block. Well, a lot of times when the running back is on, he's having to, check and see, okay, are there any blitzers coming? They're on my side. What do I need to do? And if there's nobody coming that he needs to take care of, then he can go ahead and leak out and become another receiver. And he's going to pick up a bunch of targets that way. So, you do want your running back to be very good at pass pro. That's basically the last hurdle that Gibson has to face. I put him right up there with Swift. I put him up there with Akers. I put him up ahead of like Najee Harris, who we don't even know how good he is. I mean, we think he's good, but it's yet to be determined. And he's a year younger than Najee Harris too. And honestly, I took my 101 in one of my leagues where I probably would have gone Najee Harris. It was because it was a one quarterback league, and I traded it straight up for Gibson, and I feel great about making that deal.
Yeah, I was going to share this was back in February before the Aaron Jones re-signing, but I sent Barkley and a Gallup and a second for AJ Dillon, Antonio Gibson, and Mike Evans. That was February 5th. That's a 1 QB.
Mm-hmm.
OG. Wow. Yeah. I love me some Gibby.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone have anything to add on Gibson? I think he's a pretty hot commodity. I mean, one of the favorites, I think, going into the season.
Yeah, I'm just surprised he's hanging down around running back 13, running back 14, depending on where you look. To me, that's very low.
Dynasty?
Yeah, Dynasty ranks.
Okay.
I mean, he's down there one spot ahead of CEH and 2 ahead of Miles Sanders. He's several spots behind J.K. Dobbins, who I don't think has quite the same upside, but we'll get to him too.
What did I see today? Someone, I don't know if somebody, I don't know. It was a question I saw on Twitter. I don't know if it was a DM or a tag or something, but it was someone saying they were offered 2 firsts and 2 seconds for Gibson. And they're like, not enough, right?
I mean, depending on what kind of firsts they are and what kind of seconds they are, maybe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. If they're late firsts, probably not.
I think any of these like top 12 to 15, you can even go. I would say, yeah, like maybe top 18, top 15-ish running backs that are true, workhorse, possible top 5. Like you got to overpay a bit for those guys. And if you're selling, I don't know, you can't just let them go for nothing because those are hard to get.
Right. And Gibson is one of the younger running backs, that's up in that range too. I mean, basically there's a few guys who are 21, 22, but there's an awful lot of guys who are, 24, 25, or even 26, 27 up in that top range. And those guys who are in the, 25-year-old plus range, we've seen it happen way too often that the wheels fall off kind of without warning. They look great right now. I wouldn't be horribly concerned about them if I owned them going into the season. I've got some Aaron Jones who's 26. I'm not horribly concerned about that, his age or anything like that. But on the other hand, if all of a sudden halfway through the season he gets a knee injury and he's never the same again, that would not surprise me at all.
And which is why I wanted to show a trade like that. Sorry, Theo, I'll pass to you. But like you're talking about these top guys and the age. JT, Akers, Swift, Dobbins, Gibson, like these guys are all under 23. And like you said, Dan, if you can move the guys that are in the same tiers, but at 2-3 years older in McCaffrey, Barkley, and then add with, in the package you're getting back, to me, it's a nice pivot. Like we talk about often. Theo, anything to add?
No, I think, again, nailed it. We still haven't seen him unleashed as a receiver. J.D. McKissick had 110 targets last year. All Gibson needs to do is cut 40% off of that, and you're talking about he's just a league winner this year. And I think that one of my takeaways is this draft class, this 2019 draft class, Jonathan Taylor and Cam Akers are going so high. But some of these other guys, the Swifts and the Gibson, they might end up being the real values this year. You're going to see some teams where you're getting Gibson in the mid to late second round in redraft this year. I'd have him as an RB2 could be potentially lethal. So yeah, I'm all about it. I'm all about price checking these guys and see if you get an owner in your league who's willing to move a potential bell cow, high volume, league winning type running back that you're going to have for a number of years producing for you. So I'm all about the Gibson call as well.
Agreed. All right, Addy, great. Add before we. All right, I'm going to finish off the RBs. When I was thinking about this, I don't know, you guys might agree. There's like different ways that you decide you're going to go out and buy someone in Dynasty, right? Like you could be taking a shower one day, or you're sitting on the bowl, and you just have like this light bulb thing, and you're like, yeah, you know what? I don't really have much of him. I should go grab him. Or you're listening to something or watching something. But a lot of times for me, it's just I start seeing a bit too much hate or too much love, either extreme on a certain player, and that's where I kind of get. I start going out and putting out feelers and thinking, you know what, this is a good time to buy this guy. And the first guy I'm going to talk about is J.K. Dobbins, and he was the guy I was actually selling in the around half of last season, going into the towards kind of the stretch run, trying to get more proven players. But I'm kind of seeing there's a bit of hate out there. I know my buddy Shane Swags put out a tweet, I think it was yesterday, just saying the same thing. He's seeing kind of that hate with J.K. Dobbins and just a lot of love for guys like Gus Edwards. I mean, so for me, first of all, that's enough for me to look into it. I talked about a trade. I'll talk about a trade that I made specifically because, I always like to back what I talk about on the show. But I feel like Gus Edwards is kind of getting the same type of love that Mark Ingram was getting in Baltimore. And Jake Seeley put out a really nice article, I think it's today or yesterday, on The Athletic, talking about Dobbins as one of his top breakout running backs. And he talks about how Ingram, like everybody was so high on Ingram last year. He's going like 4th or 5th round or something like that going into the season because of his 2019 season. But and then we're seeing with Gus Edwards as well, like maybe it's the offensive line and the offense, and the kind of open lanes that these running backs are getting in that offense. Lamar provides like a nice decoy almost role for the running back or with the running back. So I just think that there's a bit too much love right now for guys like Gus Edwards, as much as Edwards is a guy that, and Dan, you might disagree completely right now, but he's a guy that you and I were on from the beginning of the offseason. Whether it was best ball or, getting him as a depth piece in Dynasty. But I just feel like the hate's gone a little too far with Dobbins. You look at what he did as a rookie. He's going into his second season in that Baltimore offense. And I was just looking, like, if you look from week 11 to 17, he was an RB1 33% of the time, 67% of the time, an RB2, and 100% of the time between those weeks, he's giving you at least RB2 production, again, as a rookie. And we're seeing in that offense, he doesn't need 20, 25 touches in that offense, right? Because just the way the offense works, the touchdown opportunities at the goal line. I just think, again, I think the hate's gone too far. I made a trade, and I'll pull up some trades. I was looking, our buddy, Analytics of Dynasty,
Jordan
McNamara has some trades listed on there, and I was looking through some of the Dobbins trades. Oh, I switched it up. I knew that. Sorry, guys. But a trade I made recently, and I brought it up, and it wasn't the best received. But I sent Evans and a 22 first, and Mike Evans for J.K. Dobbins and a 22 third in a league where I was heavy at the receiver position and. Other than Gibson, very light at the running back position. So I just wanted to pair him up with another stud. So anything to add on Dobbins, Addison, or on my trade, my unpopular trade?
When the context of heavy on wide receiver and light on running back, the trade made more sense. I feel like you didn't need to add the first on top of it, but if you're going to go get your guy, and a guy who, is currently being perceived as, we just talked about DLF ADPs, the RB9 going in May startups right now, ahead of, Antonio Gibson and just behind Deandre Swift and Cam Akers and stuff, which to me, I feel like that's not really high. That's kind of high. I'm not really big into J.K. Dobbins right now. I don't know if we follow different people, but I definitely have not seen the enormous Gus Edwards love outside of like kind of what I've seen with people talking about Jamal Williams a little bit before the comments were like, hey, you guys know that Gus Edwards is going to like do more in this offense than what you might think. Because I've actually seen, and there was a tweet, this guy's putting out projections, J.K. Dobbins getting 250 touches and like having 1,400 total yards and 13 touchdowns. and
Love
that was
it.
like 3 days ago. And I'm like, I don't know where he's getting his numbers from, because I don't
it's
see that
long
at
weekend
all.
up here in Canada, man. I was like having a beer, you know, doing some yard work that my wife had on like a big to-do list. Come on, man.
Yeah. So I'm just filling you in on everything you missed in Fantasyland. the past couple of days.
I brought you on, man. It's personal benefits, you know.
Yes,
Appreciate it.
But
JD's
yeah,
got his own
like,
personal tutor.
but like, I don't know. Like, J.K. Dobbins is not the guy for me in this 2020 from the 2020 class. I'd rather go for Swift. I'd rather go for Gibson because, I mean, just like those other two, though, he had enormous touchdown overproduction in terms of 9 rushing touchdowns on 134 rush attempts. Like, that's some enormous, overproduction in the touchdown efficiency.
For sure.
Right.
Agreed.
And then you pair that with not having any reception production. He had 18 receptions for 120 yards. And I don't really think that changes because Lamar hasn't shown that to change over the last 2 years. He's averaged like 50 total targets to the running back position over the last 2 years. And while I am on record, and I do believe that they pass more this year to the tune of potentially 60, 70 more pass attempts, I think that's being fed more so to the wide receivers because of the upgrades that they've spent all offseason, upgrading the wide receiver position and acquiring Sammy Watkins and Rashad Bateman. And then also Mark Andrews is obviously still there, and Hollywood Brown. I think that a lot of the pass attempts are still being funneled to the tight end and wide receiver position, and it's not going to go so much to the running backs, which I think hurts J.K. Dobbins' ceiling. Just as, DeAndre Swift being in a bad offense might hurt his ceiling. Dobbins as a running back too, though, isn't the worst thing for me. I just feel like his price tag is a little high right now as a top 10 dynasty running back, and a guy who I believe could be closer to a 50-50 split with his, backup with Gus Edwards than DeAndre Swift with Jamal Williams or, Cam Akers with Darrell Henderson. I think that by the end of the year, I think JK and Gus Edwards could be a lot closer than a lot of the other guys in his same price range.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I mean, and that's not to say that Dobbins isn't a lot more talented than Edwards, because I think he is.
Right.
But it's just the design of the offense and how, how they've shown a tendency to feed the running backs. Now, could, Dobbins break that tendency because he's just that damn good? I think that's absolutely in the range of outcomes. I'm just not sure that's one I want to make a big bet on. If you're in a league with somebody who doesn't like their Dobbins share, then yeah, for sure. He might be worth acquiring. But what I see with Dobbins is I see, just basically a really rock solid floor, but also not a huge ceiling. If you want my advice on how to play the Baltimore offense, you just get you Lamar Jackson and log out, because that's really all you need. And everybody else is going to be just kind of untrustable a little bit. And for Gus Edwards, I mean, the main commercial for him is, Dobbins could get hurt. And if he does, then it's going to be wheels up for Gus. But don't think that they won't all of a sudden start giving Justice Hill a lot of carries too, right? So, even if something happens to Dobbins, it's not like Edwards is going to turn into a league winner. Edwards is going to turn into a nice RB2 is basically what's going to happen, I think.
All right, it's fine. I'm used to getting poo-pooed on this show, man, for my trades, and it's all good, man. It's all good. Good.
We're just trying to keep you humble, JD.
All good. I like it. I bring on people to get different angles on stuff, even though you guys are wrong. I mean, it's all good, right? People can have opinions. It's all good. All right, let's go receivers, guys. Before we go receivers, guys, Viridian Global. You see the hat. Dan's wearing the shirt. I was rocking my long sleeve golden goat champ shirt last night on press coverage with my boy Kyle. Check that out. Guys, ViridianGlobal.com/collections/goat district. You can get all your goat gear there. T-shirts, hats, comfortable. They got other fantasy stuff. I talked about my Gibby T-shirts. I got a nice JT RBs Matter T-shirt, hoodies, hats, they got it. Toques, if it's still cold wherever you are, I don't know. Minnesota and Canada, it's warm, so I don't think it's cold anywhere else. But check it out. Like I said, guys, and they've got a bunch of other brands from Fantasyland as well. So your favorite podcast is probably on there. Go check them out at breedingglobal.com. Guys, let's do receivers. Running backs are a little more fun for me, but I think that receivers sometimes there's this misconception. And I talked about this last night, and you look at kind of the actually recent article, Dan, on RotoViz with Zero RB. You look at kind of that heat map with the receiver position in those drafts, and it's not as deep as people think, right? So getting those studs for me is become more and more important in fantasy, and maybe we'll talk about some of them in this segment. I'll go back to you first, Addy, as the guest of honor. Who's a receiver you're buying right now?
One of my favorite receivers in the NFL, and has been a buy for me for the past couple of years, and still is Juju Smith-Schuster. I feel like people forget how good Juju Smith-Schuster is and how young Juju Smith-Schuster is. This dude is still 24 years old. I know it feels like he's been in the league for like 17 years. This is kind of like the same Allen Robinson effect where like A-Rob came into the league at 20 and he's been playing for like 10 years, but somehow he's still only 26. This is the same thing with Juju where, it's the same thing. Came in at 20, still 24 years old. And also I feel like people don't want to like recognize or don't know that he totaled 128 targets last year, almost 100 receptions and 9 touchdowns. And everybody wants to make a big deal about his ADOT and his yards per reception and whatnot, because like 8.5 yards per reception, 97 receptions, 830 yards. Like that's not great, but this dude over the last half of the year from week 7 through 17 was the wide receiver 8 in fantasy points and was actually right behind Deontay Johnson as the wide receiver 6, his own teammate. So that whole offense was clicking in that passing game in terms of just straight necessity. You add in Najee Harris, I think that ups the efficiency in this offense and also makes that team a little bit more productive as well in terms of getting into the red zone, extending drives, more touchdown possibility for that whole offense. And I think that Juju Smith-Schuster could be, basically the same thing that what he did last year over the last half of the year. And a lot of people wanted to make a lot of, a big deal out of what happened at the beginning of the year. In the first 5 games, Chase Claypool was kind of breaking out a little bit. But then that all changed from week 7 on. Top 10 wide receiver. He's on a 1-year deal in Pittsburgh, which I think is totally fine. I think that was the smartest decision for him in free agency because he can just run it right back for him personally, for his production, for us in fantasy football. Just run it all back. And then next year, you still have a 25-year-old wide receiver who's hitting the free agency market and could potentially go to a better landing spot than a team that like the Steelers, who now don't potentially have Ben Roethlisberger. He could go land somewhere and have a better quarterback or a better offensive system and still be really, really good. So overall, I think it's just a very good dynasty buy right now as a guy who's being taken outside of the top 25 overall wide receivers in dynasty ADP.
Yeah, I like that call big time for the price, like everything you outlined. Guys, anything to add, Theo, with the Pittsburgh receiver, Mr. Juju?
So I love Addison's take on Najee Harris making it a more efficient offense. They were so poor running the ball last year, and there's been there's a narrative now that the offensive line, which was very bad last year, loses a couple of guys, and all of a sudden it's going to just get a lot worse. I don't necessarily buy into that. I think that the offensive line can improve there. I'm interested to see Matt Canada's offense. So yeah, I'm a spoiler alert. My guy is Deontay Johnson. So I like the idea of buying one of the Pittsburgh wide receivers right now. I think that that there's some great arguments Addison made. I like how Juju kind of bet on himself and re-signed with Pittsburgh instead of taking a deal with Vegas or the Jets or a couple of teams he's rumored on. So I like the call. I think that none of the Pittsburgh receivers are that expensive right now. I would say Claypool is going to cost you the most because of his physically dominant play, and he might be the least productive out of the three this coming season. So I like the call, but I am T Deontay. So that's going to be my guy. Dan, what do you think about Juju?
Yeah, so with Juju, I mean, I think it's a key point that a lot of people are missing, that he is going to be a free agent next year. And, he does have the opportunity to, kind of choose his own quarterback a little bit, potentially. So, if he has a good year this year, he should be very much in demand again, which we want to see, we know he can play big slot, and that's a position that tends to kind of hold value pretty well. In almost any offense, if you got a big dude like that who's just running across the middle and backing up targets, you like to see that. And then he can play outside as well. That's what they say they're going to do with him this year. I don't know. I expect he's going to have plenty of time in the slot too. So I like what he can do there, and he's definitely shown that he's a good red zone weapon. There's a lot of good things going on, and right now, hating on Juju is kind of a popular thing to do. So, if your Juju owner in your league is not too happy with him, or thinks you can do better, then you should probably help him out and take Juju from him.
Yeah, going back to my reasons for going out to buy guys, Juju's been like you guys said, like it's been a little quiet on the Juju hype train. You know what I mean? So that's the perfect time to go at a guy that's broken out at as a rookie, and like you said, Addy, his age, the offense, he's on a 1 year, just so many good factors there. At the price, it's a no brainer to get the receiver right now on your dynasty rosters. Theo, I'll go to you next, buddy. Who's your receiver that you're buying right now?
So for me, it's Juju's teammate, Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson is 24 years old. He'll be 25 when the season starts. He's coming off an 88 catch season. He had 7 touchdowns. That was in 15 games played. I think that he's gone from 59 catches as a rookie to 88 last year. I think it's natural he's going to go over 100 this year. He is a target monster. He had 16 targets in their playoff loss to Cleveland. That game kind of looked like it was getting out of hand. They made a little bit of a comeback. He had 16 targets there. I like him in redraft as well. I think right now, you'll see him going off the board in like the 5th round. I think he's a very safe pick there. But for me, Deontay is in such a great place right now. He's a PPR machine. I like a lot about him, and I think that he's not overly expensive. I had one league where I traded Hollywood Brown and a second rounder in this past rookie draft to get Deontay Johnson and a 3rd rounder. So I thought that was just fantastic value. And I think that the fact that there are people on Juju, people that want Claypool, makes Deontay a little bit cheaper than he should be, and I would absolutely try to get him on any dynasty team I could.
Any concerns with the quarterback situation in Pittsburgh? Obviously, with Juju being on a 1 year, I know you're shaking your head there, Addy, but just with Juju, you kind of have that out, right? If he's not back in Pittsburgh. Any concerns with Deontay, Ben, or even in 2021, guys? Any concern with Ben's, play in their production, I guess, for this upcoming season?
I mean, to me, it's. Go ahead, Theo.
No, for me, I think that there's some concerns with Ben, but I think that Pittsburgh's going to be an efficient offense, and I think that Ben's not taking the same shots downfield like he used to, but I think they can be efficient in the short passing game. And for me, Deontay is a volume play, and I think that he's the kind of guy that Ben had eyes for a lot last year. He had some very high target games. He had 144. He had a ton of targets on the year, and he had a ton of extremely high target games. And I think that with Ben getting a little older, he's the type of receiver that he's going to lean on. So for me, I don't have too much concern about Ben coming back this year. I think that he could still support a good offense, and down the line, who takes over when Ben retires is obviously a concern. But that's a great franchise. They just put draft capital into Najee Harris. Deontay Johnson's there. Chase Claypool's there. They drafted Freiermuth. They're going to end up with a decent replacement. I got to think that they have a plan, whether it's in free agency or in the draft, where that's not the kind of franchise that I'm not going to bet is going to make a smart decision. I think it's Dan, correct me on this one, but I think that it's over 15 years in a row for Pittsburgh without a losing season. It might be higher than that right now. I think they have the longest streak in football by far. So I'm not concerned about that. I would still like to get Deontay on my team with a big question mark at quarterback down the line.
Yeah, I mean, and really in Dynasty, I mean, I know we're playing for the future and all that kind of stuff, but to a certain extent, you have to worry about 2022 and 2022. Values can change a lot between now and then, and if you think he's going to do good this year and you're worried about 2022, then, use his production for most or all of this year and then, get out towards the end. You can always pivot. So it's not the worst thing in the world that we don't know exactly what's going on with him, just enjoy the production.
2003 was the last time the Steelers had a sub 500 season.
There you go.
So they haven't had one in the Ben Roethlisberger era.
It's just crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I was hoping Mr. Pittsburgh.
Who was a quarterback for that one?
Sorry,
That's
I'm going to put you on the spot.
do I need to switch my hat?
Yes, there we go.
There you go. There you go.
All right, so who was a quarterback in 2003?
It's back, boys. It's back. There
Maddox.
you go. How do you get
Maddox? Maddox.
Yeah, Tommy Maddox. So, and then he was the quarterback to start in week 1 in 2004. That was Ben's rookie year. And then I think they lost the game. He got hurt, and Ben started week 2. They went 15 in a row. So they went 15-1 2004, Ben's rookie year, and lost to the Patriots in the AFC Championship, which is like the story of Ben Roethlisberger's career, is losing to the Patriots in the AFC Championship.
Sadly, yes.
Yeah. But
yeah, I'm a Colts fan, man. I feel that.
Or Peyton Manning, I guess, like that one year.
Yeah.
We got him all.
But I love Deontay too. I freaking love him. He was going to be we mentioned our players beforehand. And if nobody mentioned Deontay, I was going to say that Deontay was like my 1B to Juju as my wide receiver buy, because last year Deontay played 11 games out of the 15 that he actually played. 11 of the 15 he played over 45 snaps. So there's a few of those games where he was either, he got benched in that one or got hurt at the beginning of a couple others. And in those 11 games, 10 out of those 11 games, he had double-digit targets. And that 11th game was week 17 against Cleveland. So basically, when he was on the field for the entire game, you almost banked last year that you had a double-digit target wide receiver in terms of volume and opportunity. So dude was phenomenal. And I'm not really worried about drops. I don't really care about that. And yeah, buy Deontay, buy Juju. I'm fading Claypool at his price because he's being priced at or above those other two, and the production is not going to match. So I'm definitely in on buying the other two, more so for the production.
First you hate on Dobbins, now you're hating on Mapletron. What's next, man? What's next, Addy? No, I was just going to add, and if this was mentioned while I stepped away real quick, but Pittsburgh pass attempts per game last year, number 1, and by at least 3 ahead of Dallas and KC. So, you hope Ben comes back nice and healthy, and that offense is in full gear, and you got yourself some good values, especially with those receivers.
Yeah, I mean, I think the pass attempts are going down this year, but hopefully the efficiency is going up. So it's probably going to be pretty close to a wash.
Dan, who's your receiver?
All right. So honestly, I did not go into this thinking I was going to pick two Washington football team players, but such is life. That's what happened. I took Curtis Samuel. I think he's a great buy low right now. He's basically going around wide receiver 48. According to ADP, according to the DLF. Their rankings, he's right in that range. And if you look at his PPR end of season rank the last 3 years, in 2018 he was 48, 2019 36, 2020 he was 25. So 48 was his floor, other than his rookie year when he only played 9 games. And he crested 200 points last year for the first time. And you can say, yeah, that was in a different offense. I get it. But, also he had Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback. Now he's going to have Ryan Fitzpatrick. With a guy with Samuel's skill set, I'm going to take Fitzpatrick. He's also going back to an offense that he knows. Like normally when you see a wide receiver changing teams, the tendency is you want to ding them a little bit and say, it's going to take them, several games to kind of, really start to click with the quarterback and everything. And often that's true. But, I think with Samuel, at least he's going to be in the same offense, new quarterback, but same offense. So, and they know how to use him. And, while it's the same offense, again, I think a better quarterback. And also, he's got McLaren and even Diami Brown, who are going to be clearing some things out. I mean, we saw Logan Thomas last year. How many targets did that guy get? And, he's probably a better tight end than we think he is, but he's also probably not as good of a tight end as what he looked like, just due to the fact that he was the only game in town when it came to being able to catch passes and do something with them. So I see Curtis Samuel taking a bunch of his touches, and I think it's going to be wheels up for Samuel. I think he's going to finish as basically a bottom end wide receiver 2, maybe a top end wide receiver 3. And so that's plenty of room for profit right there.
Wheeler's saying you can't dog Teddy 2 gloves like that.
Oh, man. Wheeler's going to be so sad when Drew Lock beats him out. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Just keep buying those Denver offensive weapons, man. When Rodgers ends up there, I'm going to be laughing to the bank. Anything to add, guys? Theo or Addy?
No, I like Dan's call on familiarity with the coaching staff. This is a player that the Washington football team targeted in the offseason. Turner and Rivera coached him in Carolina. He's got impressive speed and versatility, and I think having McLaurin there helps him. And that Fitzpatrick's going to have a couple of those games where he's taking shots downfield. You can just see it now. I think Samuel has potential to have a very high touchdown total, and I like Dan's projection of a low-end wide receiver 2, high-end wide receiver 3. I think Samuel's the kind of guy you want in the flex, and I like the call. He's a young veteran. He's 24, and there's a lot to like about the entire Washington offense this year. I think it's great that Dan picked 2 guys off the same team, because that offense is definitely headed up.
We got some great comments coming out of the chat tonight. Shout out to the chat room. And guys, if you're watching right now, smash the like button. Appreciate that. Addy, anything to add? I know Washington, Fitzy's kind of adding a little boost to that offense. We saw what he did for Miami last year whenever he's on the field for the offense, especially in the air. Are you good with Curtis as a buy right now in Washington? Do you have any concerns? He's going pretty cheap, right?
Yeah. That price tag is really what's drawing me in here, because I feel like Curtis Samuel was a guy I don't really have an opinion on. So Dan, I'm glad that you picked him and that you were able to give your perspective on why he's a buy, because my initial concern whenever Curtis Samuel was signed by Washington, and everybody's like, well, the familiarity with Rivera and whatnot, but the way Rivera used him in Carolina, I don't know if this was Rivera or if this was a product of just the offense and the other players that they had with like DJ Moore and Christian McCaffrey. But, Curtis Samuel was that 9-route guy. He just ran straight down the field, and you hope that he was faster than the cornerback. And then Kyle Allen threw the ball about 10 yards past him. And that was literally Curtis Samuel in 2019. So, I'm worried that he's going to do that exact same thing with Curtis Samuel this year. And while I think Fitzpatrick can definitely connect with him a lot more than Kyle Allen did, and I think that's really what makes him a good buy as a wide receiver 4 or 5, and a guy that you can throw in your flex as like a cheaper Tyler Lockett with some huge weekly upside. I don't know. I get really nervous about those types of players who can either get you like 25 to 30 points or get you like 4. And I'm starting to get more into that and leaning into like the Jordan McNamara way of like really leaning into that variance. But I don't know. I get a little sweaty sometimes whenever I put those players in my lineup.
Yeah. I mean, and that's a great commercial, Addy, for having more flex spots. I mean, when you have leagues that have a bunch of flex spots, it kind of it frees you up to, be starting those more risky players. And, to me, those are the more challenging leagues anyway, because it tests your depth. And, you've got to have a much deeper team if you've got 4 or 5 flexes, or you're starting 3 wide receivers and there's 3 flexes, or whatever it might be. But you want to have a chance to test your depth, and especially once the bye weeks come, that's when you really get that chance to test your depth. So Curtis Samuel fits in super well in leagues like that, and then you can even go out and buy the discount Curtis Samuel, Paris Campbell, if he could ever stay healthy, could be, Curtis Samuel, so those are the kind of players you might buy in leagues like that.
It's not stay healthy, Dan. It's get healthy. Like get on the field. Please get on the field. That little helmet is signed by that man right there. This one. I'm just waiting it to have some value, because right now it's still at 0.
Yeah, I mean, I got to be honest. I mean, Paris Campbell's another player that I'm just like, I'm taking cheap shares anywhere and everywhere that I can, because everybody's down on him, and honestly, if he is healthy, I think Wentz is going to use him a lot. I think he just fits him really well.
All right. Am I next with receiver or
yes,
I am? All right. I'm going to go T. Higgins. It's just one of these aerial assaults you want a piece of. And when the 3 pieces are significant at the receiver position, like the running back position, there's usually one that the hype is around. There's kind of that value, the third guy. And Higgins is the guy that I think was the favorite until the NFL rookie draft, until the draft, right? As soon as we, that the assumption that they were going to go Chase became true, Higgins took a hit big time in Dynasty. Whether that happens on the field or not is to be seen. But you got to think with what this kid did as a rookie against good defenses too, like putting up 18.7 points in week 6 against Indy, putting up in week 10 against Pittsburgh, who was, one of the best defenses last year, 24.5 points. Houston in week 16, whatever, but still gave you 20, just under 22 points. But you again, just looking at what I'm seeing out there, where I'm seeing the hate is floating, and where the hype is flowing, I think that Higgins and even Boyd, who I believe, our boy John McGlynn, who was supposed to be on tonight, but had some actually a really good reason for missing. So shout out to him, #GirlDad. But his I wanted to mention his buys, and one of them was Tyler Boyd. And I think, again, just because of the love for Chase, Higgins and Boyd are 2 guys that are maybe getting a bit less love right now in Dynasty. And it gives you the opportunity to buy someone that I think, like in March, people were not letting go of a guy like Higgins, especially if they had him paired with Burrow, like I do in GOATs versus pros. Guys, anything to add? How do you guys feel about Higgins? How do you guys feel about that Cincy offense? Obviously, you're going to throw in the ball. The defense isn't that great. But how do you feel on the specific receivers, Higgins and co?
Can somebody explain something to me? How does Jamar Chase getting drafted to Cincinnati make T. Higgins a bad player? I mean, I don't get it. I mean, did Julio turn into a bad player when Calvin Ridley came along? Did Roddy White turn into a bad player when Julio came along? Did Adam Thielen turn into a bad player when Justin Jefferson came along? How about Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp? Those guys seem to coexist just fine. Juju and Deontay. I mean, so they added another good receiver. So what?
Yeah. Opens up the game more,
Right.
less attention on those guys. Higgins goes in his second year, less pressure on him, less, maybe less
Right.
coverage. Theo, how do you feel about Higgins as a buy right now?
I mean, I love T. Higgins. I do think that buying him is still difficult. When it took Jamar Chase, I think there was a perceived window that you could get Higgins. I made a couple offers. I think, people are not trading away for Higgins. I mean, I'd offer for instance, the 106 in a regular rookie draft. People are not taking that. So, I mean, listen, I love Higgins, and I think that Higgins looked like an alpha wide receiver last year. We just, at some point, you need to trust your eyes. It's a big athletic player who's gobbling
Right.
up catches, looking dominant against NFL defensive backs. I mean, what is not to like about Higgins? He flashed as a rookie. And then I'll add this. The Bengals had the second most pass attempts of any team in the league in games that Joe Burrow started. So there's going to be plenty of volume right there. And then take into account that AJ Green had 104 targets last year. He's one of the least efficient guys target catch wise, but he had.
I would have totally taken the under on that.
Yeah, 104. It's crazy. He had 104 targets. It's not a lot, but Alex Erickson also left Houston. He had about 20 targets. Drew Sample is the tight end. He's really a non-factor in terms of being a high target guy. So, Jamar Chase will get his 125 plus targets, but it should not affect T. Higgins' chance at being, a big time wide receiver too. And in Dynasty, you've seen like Dan said, we've seen Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf have great success next to one another. Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones next to one another. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. I mean, you can go down the list in the NFL of two guys that are both top 24 wide receivers in the same season. It happens all the time, and it's a great bet on a guy you've seen flash in T. Higgins, being able to partner up with an unbelievable talent like Jamar Chase and a quarterback that can get him the ball. So there's a lot to like in Cincinnati, and I'm all about trying to get T. Higgins if you're able to.
I gotta throw a couple comments on the screen because I'm laughing over here. Sorry, Theo, I'm not laughing at you, but Wheeler, our buddy Wheeler, one of the top rankers out there in fantasy land on a yearly basis, #consistent. Burrow going to stay off PUP list. Do you guys have any concerns with Burrow? Because there's, obviously all this hype around the offense and the aerial game. Do you guys have a concern that this QB is maybe not even ready to start the season? When do you expect him back? What are your thoughts on Burrow? Dan, I'll go to you first because I know you're a big fan.
I love Burrow. I love the talent. I love what he showed. Everything looks great there. I do worry just because, this is the time of year where everybody's ahead of schedule. Everybody is doing great. The rehab is fantastic. We saw Burrow throwing passes today. I mean, what I saw today didn't give me any kind of certainty that he's going to not be on the PUP list. I mean, basically he was standing in place and somebody was flipping him the ball and he was throwing a pass at about 3/4 speed. You can do that even if you got two bum legs. So I don't think what we saw today really did much to, quiet my concern about Burrow. If we get into training camp and he's a participant from day one and he keeps going and, they're just not slacking off him at all other than maybe just to, kind of limit his reps maybe slightly. But if they start limiting his reps a lot, then I would be concerned. But, if he can get into training camp and he can, he's not on the PUP list going into training camp, yeah, then go ahead. You can draft Bengals at will. But otherwise, if Burrow is not going to start, this year is going to be a bad year for the Bengals. At least until Burrow gets back. What they've got at backup quarterback is not great.
I'm going to throw one last guy we haven't mentioned. I forgot to add it to our running backs. Our boy John McGlynn also had Moss out in Buffalo, which I think Zach Moss is a great buy right now when you think about what they didn't do in the draft and what they, Matt Breida's there from, I don't even remember if that was free agency or not, but, not Singletary's kind of shown that the ceiling is not very high. What do you guys think about Zach Moss before we move this a bit forward? I see you agreeing, Addy.
Yeah. I mean, it's so easy. He's so cheap, right? And I know that he's like the 1A in a rush attack that nobody wants because Josh Allen is their running back and, blah, 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 blah. But like, it's just so easy to just grab him, stash him, wait it out. If Devin Singletary gets hurt, we're talking about a running back now who has, full potential volume opportunity in that backfield and was still getting good reps, inside the 20, was still getting, receiving reps too. I just think that Zach Moss is like the last running back that the last starting running back that everybody wants to like grab, and nobody actually wants to grab him. Like they're like, Latavius Murray is much better. I'd rather have Latavius Murray than Zach Moss. And it's just like you can go on and on and on with all these backups before you finally get to the Buffalo Bills' actual starting running back. And I think that that's kind of crazy. I mean, I get it, but like it's still kind of crazy. And so I'm all about just, at this point you could be like, hey man, here's this deal. I'm going from, I'm trying to go across the tiers. I'll add in like a second rounder next year. You throw in Zach Moss, we're good to go. Like what we were talking about earlier, we're dropping from Saquon to a Cam Akers or a Antonio Gibson, evening it out, throw in Zach Moss, we're good to go. Easy.
Mm-hmm.
Easy.
There you go. I like the concept there. And, when you think about it, who are people comping Moss to a lot last year? I saw a lot of David Montgomery comps. Yeah. Did you guys see that?
Yeah, I saw a couple of those. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, not super athletic, but he runs hard and, he's a good pass catcher and everything else, and David Montgomery really underwhelmed as a rookie, and he had a running quarterback, Trubisky, and nobody really wanted much of a part of Montgomery going into 2020, and he kind of sucked through the first half of the year, and all of a sudden he caught fire and took off. The same thing could definitely happen to Moss.
All right, guys, before we go to Theo for some on the clock action, little was that speed? I always forget what that's called. Dan, help me out. Fire round, speed round. I don't know.
Yeah, lightning round. I don't know.
Round. There you go. I don't know, something.
Sure.
There you go. We gotta give a quick shout out, guys. Our biggest supporters on this show is the FFPC. That's where we play the most fantasy football. Right now, you've got the Dynasty startup starting at $77, all the way up to, Dan, I ask you this every show and I always forget.
Yeah, Dynasty. I mean, you want to get into a $5,000 league, they're out there. Or at least one of them is. There's $2,500, $1,250, $750, $500, $250, and $77. So no matter what, you can find something that's in your ballpark price wise. So $77 is not too much. And it's a fun format. And you've got a variety of formats available too for their dynasty leagues. You've got best ball, you've got the new triflex, you've got single quarterback, you've got super flex, so lots of different ways you can go.
And talking to triflex real quick, make sure you tune into Triflexing with Theo, our boy Theo, and Andrew, talking all kinds of strategy for that new FFPC format. Best balls, guys. I mean, it's that season. I said it last night. I say it often. If you're playing fantasy and you're not doing best balls, it's like playing golf and wanting to be good at it without going to the driving range. Like, come on, man. $35 to $12.50. They're always popping, whether you want to go slow or live. Dan, you said it. Every kind of format. Super flex, 1 QB. This is the site, you know.
And they got a tourney going now. Don't forget the tourney.
Danny, it's right there. You know me, brother, right?
Yes.
Right over here. 100,000 grand prize. Online draft daily. $125 entry for $550,000 in prize money. So if you're balling, you think you're doing all right, step up to the big leagues, man, and get a piece of it. Anything to add on this big tourney? I know you guys are just like, I don't know if you guys already did one of these, but you're probably drooling to get in. Theo, Dan?
Yeah, it's capped at 4,600 entries too, which is nice. So you're not going to be fighting the entire world like you are an underdog and some of those other ones.
Addison, DLF buy you how many of those entries? They'll buy you.
I could definitely ask to convert the pay that they gave me into best ball entry fees.
At this point, better than Bitcoin, right? So just give them FFPC.
This isn't dropping by 40% on the daily. So
there you go. Right. There you go. And if anyone wants to talk about crypto, man, DM my ass right now. No, just saying. $500,000 grand prize main event, the FFPC. This is why you play on the site. $4 million just under in prize money. Right now, you got the early bird that ends May 31st, so it's coming up real quick. So if you plan on buying into this tournament, you'll save $100 off your first team, $400 off each additional team with this deal. Guys, $500,000, man, that's like, up here in Canada, you can buy a whole province. No, I'm just joking. Shout out to my Leafs. And I think we covered all of it. We got all of it here. Football guys. They're my favorite. What am I saying? My favorite one right here. This is what got me onto the FFPC. Another $500,000 grand prize. Early bird promo. You get a $35 credit when you sign up to the tournament. This is just a load of fun, man. And they have this special on right now. It's a $350 buy-in. It's basically a redraft one season. You want to win your 12-man league, and then you move into kind of the championship rounds where you're playing for this big money. Anything to add on this tourney, guys, before we get to Theo and the OTC?
Yeah, I got one other thing to add. I mean, this year, not only, you get all these nice promos and everything else, but you get an extra free NFL game, an extra week of the season, absolutely free. So, Now a 12-week regular season instead of an 11-week. Who doesn't like more football?
There you go. That's great ad, Dan. Great ad. All right, guys. Theo, I'm handing over the torch, dude. You're the OTC guy from now on. What is this? Moss is like getting those free condoms. Hold on, Theo. I got to throw this before I pass to you. Our boy Wheeler. Moss is like getting those condoms they gave in college. Yeah, it's cool you're having sex, but you can't feel shit. It's not exactly the safest play. All right, hopefully your kids were not listening and you didn't play this in the car on your way to preschool today.
District tonight.
PG, I always put the explicit on here, man.
Yep.
Yeah,
we ain't playing. We all have kids here, All right, Theo, hit it, man. Drop us some OTC action. So
this is off of all May Dynasty startup drafts in FFPC per Fantasy Mojo. Fantastic ADP source. If you're not subscribed to Fantasy Mojo, it's one of the best going.
100%.
So here we go. I've got a couple of really hard ones for you guys for on the clock here. 24 overall CD Lamb or 25 overall Jamar Chase. We'll start out with Dan.
Screw you, Theo. I mean, honest to God, you got to give me this one. I'm going to take CD here, but it's razor thin margin between the two. And the reason why I'm taking CD is just because I'm not 100% confident that Burrow is going to avoid the PUP list. And if so, then CD is going to have more value this year. And so, you could flip him for Chase sometime during the year.
Addison?
Agreed. That was to me. It was easy, Lamb. I don't feel like the margin's as thin. I feel like that's an easier Lamb call for me.
Okay.
Agreed. I've CD's more like a top 5-ish, whereas if I'm looking at Chase, he's like a top 12 wide receiver 1 dynasty right now. But when you're looking at guys that are similar in the sense that they're fighting 2 legit receivers for targets, yeah, they're in good offenses. They're going to throw the ball. But to me, when it's very close, proven on the NFL field against NFL defense with an NFL, not even the best NFL quarterback possible, throwing him the ball, give me some CeeDee Lamb over Chase. But man, I love me some Chase too. So I think it's that's a good OTC there to start it off, Theo.
And I will add that I will go Lamb, but I'll take the cop-out answer, and I'll say both. I'd love to have either one on my dynasty teams. Here's a little difficult one. It takes a little strategy into account. This might be hey, where's my team at? 30 overall, Austin Eckler, or 31 overall, Travis Etienne? We'll start out with Dan.
All right. I'm going to go Eckler here because basically Eckler is what we hope ETN is going to be. If you're on a rebuild, then maybe go ETN, but otherwise just, man, give me Eckler, give me the production. I love what that dude does. And so, yeah, easy.
So I'll go ETN, but I believe in ETN to become that 3-down workhorse sooner rather than later. I think the J-Rob, Carlos Hyde stuff is all coach speak from Urban Meyer. I think he's smarter than that. And worst case scenario, I think you have, a pass catching first type of a, Deandre Swift, Austin Eckler type of a running back in ETN with the then upside of him getting the full workload that Austin Eckler doesn't really have. And I don't think he ever is going to have that. As long as he's there with the Chargers. So ETN.
Yeah, I mean, Dan talked about like contending versus rebuild. I think for 2021, you're probably leaning Eckler, but I don't see them as equal value in Dynasty. I mean, you're talking about a 26-year-old running back that found his groove, in the last 2-3 years of it. As much as I love Eckler, but again, you're looking at opportunity, you're looking at age when you're looking at running backs, and you're talking about a guy who's coming into the league with one of, the most hyped quarterbacks maybe ever in Dynasty or in a really long time anyways, since maybe Andrew Luck. So again, I agree with Dan. I think that if you're looking for 2021 and you're competing, you definitely want Eckler on your roster, but I'm not sending Etienne for Eckler straight up. I'm going to want a bit more with the Charger running back in return. But, if you're looking dynasty rankings, I'm definitely ranking Etienne ahead of Eckler, but that's no hit on Eckler, man. I love me some Eckler for 21.
Mm-hmm.
I will go ETN on that one. And I also love Eckler for 2021, but I think ETN is going to be a star in this league, and he's younger. Here's a tough one. This also speaks to redraft a little bit because they'll be close in redraft as well. 36 overall, Michael Thomas, or 37 overall, Terry F1 McLaurin for Dan's Washington football team.
Damn.
All right, somebody else got to go first on this one.
Dan, I'm just gonna say this because I forgot to say this earlier when I was gonna talk about my receiver. I was gonna say that my hot buy right now is not Michael Thomas, because if you listen to this show, you were buying Michael Thomas, Dan, like 2 months ago in Dynasty. Right now, you can't buy Michael Thomas because the big shows in the industry are now talking about Michael Thomas and how Winston is going to be his quarterback, and he has a chance to be wide receiver 1 again. So I don't think he's a buy right now, but I think that if you were listening to this show, you got yourself some nice Michael Thomas on the cheap. I'll go MT. I'll go first, man. I'm going to go MT in this one because I honestly think he can be the receiver 1 as long as Winston does keep hold of that starting position.
Addison?
AD, you didn't stall long enough while I was pulling up splits.
Addie's got similar internet connection to mine, I think.
Yeah.
Pulling up splits on Michael Thomas from last year.
So almost semi-related. I was driving the other day, and for the first time in like 2 years, I was driving along behind a McLaren, and it was, it's a beautiful car. It really is. And and that when they stomp on the gas, man, it goes. Love it.
Wrong one.
So,
there it is, man. No way.
All right, I was sandbagging for Addy, so let's see what he's got here.
So I am on the Michael Thomas side of this one. To me, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is between Jameis and Taysom Hill. I think they're both have the ability to feed Michael Thomas. Last year in 4 games with Taysom Hill, Thomas averaged 16 PPR points per game, 9 targets, 7.5 receptions, 85 yards, and didn't score a single touchdown. Still averaged 16 points per game. So he definitely can still be a stud fantasy wide receiver with PPR production. If he falls into the end zone more, even with or without Taysom Hill, I feel like the ceiling is with Jameis, but can still be very, very, very good with Taysom Hill. So I'm taking Michael Thomas there because I feel like that is a heck of a value for a guy who can still be a top 10 wide receiver. And I think is being drafted as a top 10 wide receiver in redraft. So, you're taking a little bit more age on, just a couple years. McLaurin is still an older guy, even though he's been in the league for a couple years. So I'm taking Michael Thomas over McLaurin.
Wheeler, like I tell everybody, send offers. Start the convo. We'll go from there. Dan, Theo, anything to add?
I mean, I'm going to go Thomas here as well. It's the guy's a target vacuum. That's all there is to it. With McLaurin, he does operate in other areas of the field, but a lot of his action is going to be a little bit to the deeper side, and so he's going to be a little bit more hit and miss. I mean, with Thomas, he's going to be getting basically 10 targets a game, pretty much week in and week out, and when you can get that kind of certainty on targets, that's the way I'm going to go.
And guys, let's face it, Michael Thomas, 2020, not his best year.
No,
getting fights.
Like Addy said, 0 touchdowns. I mean, how often is that going to happen?
Yeah, for me, it's Thomas. I love F1 McLaurin, but we have a lot of recency bias going on here. Michael Thomas had 185 targets 2 seasons ago, so that's crazy. And I think he'll have a nice bounce back this year. Okay, this is a difficult one.
And Theo, just to add real quick, keeping it like super simple. If you're picking between 2 guys and one guy's already been a top 12 receiver, there's a higher chance that dude's going to be back as a top 12 receiver than the other dude that hasn't been
Jacob Rickroad principle.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a great call, JD. This is a interesting one. 59 overall, the rookie of the year, Justin Herbert, or 60 overall, coming off of an injury, Dak Prescott. We will start with Addison on this one.
Give me Dak Prescott on there. He's one of my favorite. I guess he would have been a buy low a couple months ago, probably in that same Michael Thomas range, where now it's cool to buy Dak Prescott, so you actually can't. But Dak was a guy who, I mean, you can talk about his pace and whatnot in the first 4 or 5 games where Dak played last year, where he was on pace for 6,000 passing yards and 800 pass attempts. That's not going to happen. We need to be realistic here. We need to reel it back and talk about what could actually happen for Dak. But I think 600 pass attempts is definitely well within the range for this Dallas Cowboys offense. Add in the fact that he's been, 5 or 6 rushing touchdown type of a guy on a season-long standpoint as well. I think everything that Justin Herbert does, Dak does just a little bit better in both the passing game and the rush attack. I think Dak has better weapons. And I also think that offense is a better offense as a whole. So I'm going to take Dak Prescott for the rushing floor with the same elite passing upside that Justin Herbert has, and the best of both worlds there.
Dan, Mr. Duck.
I mean, what he said, that's you could not say it any more perfectly than what Addy said right there. I mean, that was exactly 100% the reasons why you want to be taking Dak. The only thing I'd add to that is also, he's done it for multiple seasons. He's gotten that max contract. Whereas Herbert, we have seen quarterbacks do fantastic in their first year and then fall off some in their second year. And, so that's not out of the realm of possibilities with Herbert. I don't think it's going to happen, but you still have to consider it could happen. Whereas with Dak, we've got a big enough body of work that I'm really not worried about that.
Theo, I'm going to answer your question with a trade I made. And a quick side note, I got to back everything with a trade, man. I got to walk the walk. But little side note, this is why you draft quarterbacks in the third round in 1 QB for cheap. So I sent Herbert for Dak and a third and a 2021 third rounder in a 1 QB. So that might tell you which way I'm leaning up. I got Dak. Dak is a top three quarterback in Dynasty. And for all of the above, reasons you guys gave.
And I'd be remiss in not mentioning the fact that Theo got Dak off of us in pretty much the exact same trade last year when Dak got hurt, and we were still in the thick of it, and Theo was starting to fall out.
And I got to pick on top of that one too. So
I think it was. We had to give up Dak in a third.
Yeah, so it was pretty much the JD trade, but in reverse. But I think that we'll both be happy with our quarterback play this year in the Hardway League. I'm all about Dak. I think Dak has a chance to be quarterback 1 overall this year. I think he'll have a huge comeback this year. I think he'll be comeback player of the year. I'm looking forward to that Dallas offense. This next one, I'm going to flip it to redraft because I threw one player who's a little bit older. We'll give a dynasty and a redraft spin on this one. So you can answer for dynasty and you can answer for redraft in the same answer. I'm going to throw 3 guys out there, all going in the same range, all tight ends. 84 overall, Irv Smith. 90 overall, Mike Gesicki. 93 overall, Logan Thomas. We'll start out with Addison on this one.
Give me Logan Thomas in both formats. I like the slight discount on Irv, a guy who has a massive amount of potential, but is again, it's just I feel like it's just a lot of potential right now. We've seen it come together at times in flashes and whatnot, and Kyle Rudolph's not there, so he definitely has that tight end 1 on lock on that depth chart. Still the third or maybe even potentially the 4th target per game in that offense behind Jefferson, Thielen, and Dalvin Cook. I'm not sure about Irv on that one. Gesicki, they did a lot. They did a lot in terms of adding to that offense. And I still don't know if Tua is going to be the guy to fully unlock that opportunity and that offense. We were talking about they added Will Fuller. They still have Devontae Parker, Preston Williams. They drafted Jalen Waddle. Myles Gaskin's going to be coming out of the backfield. One of my favorite running backs right now, just to have and to take into 2021. So I'll take Logan Thomas here because I think there's more ambiguity with Washington because we talked about Curtis Samuel, but I don't know what Curtis Samuel actually is. Like I said, I don't know if Ron Rivera is going to use him the same. Thomas he had 110 targets last year. He tied with J.D. McKissick as for second most on that team behind McLaurin. So I think he's pretty close to being another lock for 100+ targets. And even if he's getting 90+, I feel like that still puts him in the top 5 category just based on volume and opportunity at the tight end position. There's almost like a discount Darren Waller type of a player. So I'll take Logan Thomas in both dynasty and redraft. Although the Dynasty one might not be the right answer. But
Dan?
Yeah, so I'm definitely gonna take Logan Thomas here. And the reason why is I don't think any of these guys are gonna really save your bacon. They're all gonna be probably like, third or fourth on the target tree in their respective offenses. So I think people are a little bit out over their skis on all these guys. But the fact that I can push tight end off another round and still get Logan Thomas over the price I'm paying for Irv. Gesicki is clearly third place on my list of these three, and like Addy, I'll take it that way. Definitely in redraft and in Dynasty, it gets a little bit closer just because Irv is so much younger. But Logan Thomas, like. Earlier, I was kind of crapping on him a little bit because, he was basically the only target game in town. But on the other hand, he could be a Darren Waller. There's definitely that in the range of outcomes, that he is just that much of a security blanket for a quarterback. And, even Ryan Fitzpatrick, he knows how to hit the tight end. So, we have to consider that Logan Thomas might actually just be, good. And Irv Smith, ton of potential, everything else, but that Vikings offense doesn't toss up a lot of passing attempts. And so, when you're talking about a guy who's third or fourth on the target totem pole, it's tough when the offense generates that few passing attempts to really count on that guy. You're counting on touchdowns becoming a major part of his output, I think, at that point.
If I'm looking pure Dynasty, just macro Dynasty 2021, whatever, just I want the best Dynasty piece. It's Irv Smith for me, no doubt. That's who I want on my roster, especially with, Rudolph finally gone. We haven't seen him, without Rudolph in that offense. There's a lot of open targets. I don't know. He's what? He's not even 23 yet. And then you're looking at Logan Thomas is approaching 30. Age for me, tight end doesn't mean anything. And Logan Thomas won me a couple leagues last year, just coming in to replace a guy like Kittle who got injured for the season, made a couple trades for Thomas, and he was awesome. And I love me some Thomas. But again, playing devil's advocate on Thomas, you got to look at who was there as a target in Washington. There wasn't much. Not to say he's not going to get the same volume this year, but it's something I question when I'm drafting. Gesicki for me has lost a lot of value, whether that's real or just perception. I feel that because of the pieces that are in Miami, his contract situation, they drafted Hunter Long to come in Miami, and I guess you would think to take over that spot from Gesicki, but I think Irv for me would be number one. Thomas would be two. If we're talking pure redraft, it's a no-brainer that Logan Thomas would be ahead, but Irv wouldn't be far behind it. And I think that Irv in redraft and best balls is actually a great value for that reason, because the opportunity is now there. He's had his experience in the NFL. He's in a good offense, but he hasn't shown that ceiling that, Logan Thomas has shown it. So for me, that's where I go for Irv, the not so obvious choice. But either one of these guys, these are two guys I really like at the tight end position.
I could raise you. I could put JD here. Good.
Sorry, go ahead, Abby.
I was just gonna say, I could pull JD here and be like, well, I could answer this question with a trade that I made.
Do it. Do it. That's the only way. That's the only way.
And it was a couple months ago, back when the Matthew Stafford trade rumors were swirling all around, and San Francisco was a really hot team for Matthew Stafford to potentially be traded to. I really like that drop. Sorry, I was probably talking over it, so everybody else probably couldn't hear it.
No, it's all good, dude. Keep going.
But in my DLF Champions Cup League, it's a Superflex 2 PPR tight end premium. So tight ends are uber awesome and important in that league. I had Travis Kelce, and he was scoring like 35 points per game because of that two PPR tight end premium. But so in that league, and the way that league is also structured, it's basically a 3-year window, and every 3 years, the person with the most points in a division wins like a jackpot. So year one was last year. I won my league last year, so I'm like in the lead for, at least in terms of my league, for the jackpot in a couple years. But I traded back during the Matthew Stafford trade rumors, Jimmy Garoppolo and Alan Lazard for Logan Thomas. Just that was all it was. So hopefully Logan Thomas actually pans out for me. I need him for 2 years. So
Say hello to my little friend.
Did you tell I got my soundboard back this show?
Oh man,
I love it. But yeah, so hopefully I get a little bit of the best of both worlds in terms of him being the obvious redraft play in 2021 and a little bit more in Dynasty, so I can get it for 2022 and maybe a little beyond there too. But I still feel really good about that trade. And Logan Thomas was out here outscoring like Will Fuller in that league. So I like it.
If it makes sense, I think that he's good in redraft, but I think that he's kind of undervalued in Dynasty because of what you just said, that people see him as maybe like 2021 and then who knows after that. Whereas like Dynasty, right, he's better than, like, it's not easy to find a tight end that's going to produce the way he did last year. So that
was his first year.
Exactly.
That was his first year at the position, right? He was a converted quarterback. So
yep.
Oh,
he
true.
Grows into his own position.
I forgot about that.
Like,
that's
right.
He
is older, right? But like, so is Darren Waller, who also took a lot of time to develop and to get going before he found himself with the Raiders. And now, Logan Thomas converting from quarterback, still learning his position. Like I said, I think there's some ambiguity there because he was tied for second in the targets last year. They only really added Curtis Samuel. I still feel like 90 to 100 targets is well within his range for 2021 and maybe 2022 as well.
Yeah, I would say Thomas for me in draft clearly, but in Dynasty, I'm going to go with Irv. Irv's shown enough at his young age that you can't discount that. I mean, he had some production at 20, some production at 21, and now he's only 22 years old. The guy's definitely got the pedigree, and I think he'll have an opportunity. So I think that, like Dan said, Gesicki would be third for me in both formats as well. And that's it, guys. That rounds up on the clock. Those were all really good and some great answers as well.
Yeah, that was a ton of fun. Guys, we appreciate you guys hanging out with us. I know we had a couple of people reach out and just talk about the night that we were on. We were on Wednesday nights with the show at 9:30, and I guess it competed with, not competed, but it was kind of on at the same time as a couple shows that our audience are into, and we completely agreed. So we're trying something a little different. We noticed that a few of you jumped in live a bit more than what we get on the Wednesday night. So we appreciate you guys hanging with us. Let us know any feedback, because as you can see, we definitely listen to the feedback you guys give us, and hopefully this show was helpful, man. I know, Dan, we just cannot, like, if we were forced to do a 1 hour show, we would just leave the money on the table and walk away, because it's like we can barely keep this thing at 90 minutes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's time to acknowledge what we are. We're a long form podcast. It's just the way it is, If you want short, concise sound bites, you can certainly find those. If you want to get a little bit more in depth and find out a little bit more, and take your game to another level, then we're the place you want to be.
Well, I know a Spotify show that just got a couple bags of money for being a long form, so I don't mind that. And like I said, guys, we are ahead of the game when it comes to Dynasty, and I'll put us up against anyone, because I'm hearing it right now, guys. Like, I'm listening to these mainstream shows, these bigger shows, and they're talking about stuff we were talking about months ago, guys. So tune in, make sure you're ahead of the herd. You're grabbing these guys before. It's like stocks, crypto. I'm huge into crypto right now. And you watch some news sources and they're a week behind, man. Like, they're talking about stuff that is not relevant anymore because the prices aren't even where they are in the conversation. And it's the same with Dynasty. You want to be ahead of it. You want to grab these guys before everyone else wants them, because then the price goes up and then you're paying way more than you need. So guys, tonight was awesome. Addy, always a blast, man. We love having you on. Check out at AmazeHayes_ and all the goodness at DLF. And one more time, anything you want to share, remind the people where else they can find you, Addy. Thanks again for hanging with us.
God, man, thank you so much for having me on. I said at the beginning, but every single time I come on here, I have so much fun talking football, Dynasty, all that awesome stuff with you guys, because the perspectives are all fantastic, and I absolutely love the information. I learned something every single time I'm on here, 100%. Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. Check out the DLF YouTube channel. If you're already on here for YouTube, just type in Dynasty League Football. Go hit the subscribe button over there. Like I said, content dropping every single day, Monday through Friday, sometimes on the weekends as well. I know we're going to have content this weekend too. So, yeah, we try to blast your YouTube feed with some content, and it's good content too. And it's
you
diverse.
guys are turning into a little bit of a fire hose down there, eh? That's good. I like it.
I know. I feel like I get worried sometimes that we like overflow with the content, but I'm like, nah. You can't have too much content, right?
No, this is not a problem.
Yeah.
Agreed. I always, and again, I said this last night on the show, like DLF is one of the reasons the GOAT District exists, because it was one of those Dynasty podcasts way back in the day that you listened to, and there was maybe 2 other shows really that were Dynasty focused. I was like, man, I need more. I want more, So I don't think there's too much coming out of DLF, and we're big fans, and guys, tune in to Addy's goodness and all the goodness they have over there at DLF. Theo, always a pleasure, brother. We appreciate you hanging with us tonight. Anything you want to share? Anything you got coming out over there at the Breakout Finder or anything else?
No, you can find me here on the GOAT District, on Twitter at the OG Fantasy, and then you can find my writing on Player Profiler and Breakout Finder. I have a couple of articles coming out, and Player Profiler is dropping their draft kit sometimes very shortly. And I have 2 of the team previews and a couple of player previews on there. So I'm looking forward to that. And nice. You can also find TriFlexing. Andrew Schellenberg and I are going to drop part 3 of our startup, and we're going to do a new startup with a couple more TriFlexing podcasts coming up as well. So that was a really fun new format in FFPC. And there should be some good stuff on that show.
Yeah, man, that's an awesome show. You guys are honestly killing it on that show. If you're planning on playing Triflexing, or you're in the Triflexing format on the FFPC, it's a no-brainer, man. Theo and Andrew are dropping some really good shows. And we joke about backing it up with trades, and I mean they're using the real life money that they dropped into these leagues and the drafts that they're doing, the rosters they're building, and they're sharing their strategies and their kind of approaches to all that. So make sure you tune in for that. Dan, always a pleasure, dude. I love the bun, the clean look. I thought you chopped it off, man. Like I saw that thing and I was like, did he just seriously chop that thing off? Oh man, I love it. It's like a samurai. You got like the samurai bun going. That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it's the flow is great, but when you're outside in the wind, it's just not quite as nice. So
I wouldn't know, Dan. I wouldn't know.
So, it's some days are bun days, and that's the way it goes. But it was a ton of fun hanging with Addy, man. I really enjoyed it. I mean, it's been too long, and we're gonna have to do this more often, because I mean, you're just a super knowledgeable guy, and I'm learning stuff. You say you learn stuff. I learn stuff every time on the GOAT District too. I am not just I'm not just one of the a co-host or whatever. I'm also one of the guys who's writing stuff down and going, yeah, that's a good thing. I never really thought about that. So thanks for coming on, Addy, and let's do it again soon.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I mean, you guys see the guests we have on. We don't have like a boss or anyone above us, like some network that's telling us who we need to have on. We have people on the show that we get value out of, whether that's for our own teams, or when we have questions, or we've played against these guys in leagues, and we think that they'll bring value to you guys. And I think that's what separates us. So again, appreciate Addy, Theo, Dan, always tons of goodness. Guys, if you haven't done it, smash the like, smash the subscribe, the reminder, all that stuff. Share the goodness. Go check out ViridianGlobal.com for all your goat gear. Dan's got the shirt going, hats, any kind of goodness you need to show your support for the show. Dynasty Depot, we didn't talk about it tonight, but if you're on the FFPC, our friends at myffpc.com, where all the goodness we talked about, all those different formats. If you're playing Dynasty on there, you can buy and sell rosters on the Dynasty Depot. And we can't forget our friends at McNamara Dynasty. Go check out the Analytics of Dynasty website. So many tools out there to help you, whether, Dynasty trades. It's so much on there. It's beyond my comprehension. Let's put it that way. That's the simpleton in me. Addy knows, man. He's building tools over at DLF, and I reach out to him sometimes, and I'm asking him a question. He's like, "Dude, I have a tool for that." I'm like, "Yeah, but I just not smart enough to realize that. So you're gonna have to draw me a picture." No, man. We appreciate guys like Jordan and Addy, man. Side notes, you guys put out you guys take this industry to another level. That's
absolutely.
You guys do things that a lot of us can't, and we appreciate that, man, because you help us, guys like us, win our leagues when we're playing in these high stake leagues. And at the end of the day, that's money, brother. So we appreciate you. We appreciate you tonight. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us as usual. Stay safe, stay happy, and we'll check you all later.
Goat District, the Pope listens. Dynasty, our religion, for the blokes missing. On all of these trades, on all of these plays, on all of these grades. By the end of the day, y'all getting played. So, what you gonna do next? Try to fill up that flex? Send the homie a text? That trash offer's the best? You try to make it complex, then they text you back. Now all of a sudden, they don't make any sense. Broaden your horizons, boy. Dynasty's not for the Simons, boy. These trades not for consignment, boy. Respect your opponent, y'all some piranhas, boy. This my advice from me to you. Open up your cute little podcast queue. Search up GOAT District, my dude. Pop it in your ear, man. Y'all know what to do. It's the... And I always be traded. And I always be traded. And I always be trading. Y'all try to betray them, but first you gotta bait them. Fish.